And so I think that's interesting. There's lots to get to. Let's get to it. First, don't forget to get your ticket to the event in Mississauga on April 15th. A doctor, a nurse, and a paramedic walk into a bar. We're going to talk about all sorts of stuff. It'll be lots of fun. Me and Greg will be there. Patrick Phillips will be there. A whole bunch of other people. It'll be lots of fun. We'll see you then. Anyway, let's get to it. Here's this exchange. Roughneck says, in Canada, a member of the Liberal Party threatens a Conservative MP to step outside and smash him after he asks questions about Chinese interference. Mark Gerretson is a thug and a bully. And Kevin Vuong is not a Conservative MP. He is an independent who was formerly a Liberal, actually. He got elected as a Liberal. Here is the exchange. It's so wild. It is absolutely... I don't think I've ever seen anything like this on the House of Commons floor. Here we go.
The problem is, what party line? The Liberal parties or the Communist Party of China's? I call upon the government to step up and provide strong investigatory powers to the Special Rapporteur so that Mr. Johnson can unearth names and evidence of foreign interference in Canada, and especially in Vancouver and Toronto during the last 2 elections. Canadians deserve and demand to know what's going on. They want to see concrete action taken to protect our political and democratic processes and institutions from foreign manipulation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
If I understood that member correctly, Mr. Speaker, he just asked and questioned whether I was towing a Liberal Party line or a Communist Party of China line. My response to that member is, let's go outside and say it to me in public where you do not have the parliamentary privilege that you have in this room.
The problem is, what party line?
Put 'em up, right? It's very interesting to see Mark Gerretson get so animated. I don't know what happened next. I don't know what Vuong said in response to that. Pretty wild stuff. Ryan Gerretson says, Mark is unraveling right before our eyes. Yeah, that's pretty aggressive for the House of Commons, usually, right? And given the context of what's going on, Liberals getting money from China to elect candidates illegally, is that a question that should be responded to with that much vigor? If they're trying to sell something, I think so. Yeah, that's what they're doing. They're trying to sell it. They're not trying to prove otherwise. They're just trying to get the public on board, and that's basically it. Stephen Taylor says, shades of Stalinism. Who didn't clap enthusiastically enough? Get them. And I wanted to draw this line. Yesterday, I showed a report of Mark Gerretson recording Andrew Scheer clapping unenthusiastically for President Biden, and basically saying, he says, you think Andrew would have a tad more enthusiasm for fellow American citizen. That's Stalinist style leadership. If you aren't enthusiastic enough, there was a story where people were clapping and nobody wanted to be the first one to let up on the clapping. So everybody just kept clapping, and it lasted for a lot longer than it should. I think hours, but I don't know. I couldn't imagine standing in that crowd thinking, oh my gosh, when are we going to stop clapping? My hands are getting raw. But yeah, these things happen. People are insane. People are absolutely round the bend nuts because of the way they respond to situations like that sometimes. Here is Bob Mackin, and he says, ex-Liberal MP Han Dong billed taxpayers for a summer trip to Vancouver. So that's interesting. Billed taxpayers for a summer trip to Vancouver. Well, you think he's an MP? Is he going back to his constituency? No. Andy Lee points out Han Dong charged taxpayers for a Vancouver trip where he met CCP-friendly groups and socialized with a Chinese diplomat. Quote, if you're not conducting committee business, it becomes a bit questionable and weird. His riding is Don Valley North, which is a few thousand kilometers away from Vancouver. So there are questions abound, right? And Han Dong is at the center of this, but there's a lot more questions. The two Michaels we've got some questions about the two Michaels as well. There's GoFundMe. There's a GoFundMe to help get Chrystia Freeland a new dress and Spanx. Her red dress, her favorite red dress. People are sick of it, I guess. So if you want to join that GoFundMe, they've probably taken it down by now. Shucks, right? GoFundMe is so unreliable. Here's Herb, and this screenshot is from when Champagne, Melanie Jolie, and Chrystia Freeland were waving at the two Michaels. Oh, hi, you guys. Hi, imagine seeing you here after all this most recent news. Okay, stand up. Yeah, not the Chinese handler. Okay, the Chinese handlers can stand up too. Everybody can stand up. Where are your wives? The two Michaels. But that's where that screenshot's from. And I just thought it was funny that other people are seeing the red dress because It's been a long running joke. It's been a long running gag in my head in my show. Like, she's always wearing that red dress. She loves that red dress, man. And I've got t-shirts that I like. Sure. I actually own 2 Superman t-shirts. I think I got one to give as a gift, and then I just never got around to giving it as a gift. So I just started wearing it, and that was that. But I've got shirts that I like. You know, it's cool. I get it, Christia Freeland, but this is weird. Herb says this seals it. They're innocent. And here's the 2 Michaels, proof that the Liberals would never use the 2 Michaels for political gain, right? And it's a picture of Pablo Rodriguez, Christia Freeland, Declue, the health minister, the 2 lovely Asian ladies who appear to be accompanying the 2 Michaels everywhere. And the 2 Michaels looking, smiling at the camera. Oh, yes. We'd love to be here. This is wonderful. We absolutely love it. There's some speculation. Here's a hypothetical. Circulon. Ooh, right? Ooh. What's Circulon? What is Circulon? Circulon is a meme maker. Anyway, hypothetical, says Circulon. You get arrested in China and held in a reportedly brutal conditions for 1,000 days. You're released, and the very week you hear your own government may have left you there longer for political gain. You're invited to a dinner by those very same officials. Do you attend? Are you accompanied by Asian women that are not your spouse on either side? Do you go to the parliament and perform as a show pony? Are you standing up at the snap of the deputy prime minister's fingers? Are you agents of the state disguised as international businessmen? What is happening here, right? Who are these women, and why are they being trotted out? Why are the 2 Michaels being trotted out as a political kind of win for Trudeau in light of the timing of all this with the Chinese allegations, etc.? This is a December 2020 thread talking about the 2 Michaels, and then Cody's put this together. Could Canadian hostages be a part of a Chinese psyop? Mainstream media, Canadians Michael Kovrig and Spavor are being detained by China in retaliation for Canada's house arrest of Huawei CFO Meng Wanzhou for extradition to the United States on fraud charges. Here are just a few mainstream media articles on the topic to get a sense of the narrative being crafted. We are to believe that this is about a dispute between the U.S., the Trump administration, and China. 2 Canadians are simply hostage victims caught in the middle. Let's look at one of the Michaels. Kovrig is a Canadian diplomat that works for an independent nonprofit NGO called International Crisis Group. What is this company, and who are its executives? Look at the swamp creatures on this board, he says. Biggest snakes that stand out immediately are Moloch Brown, Giesta, and Amazing Polly does deep dives on who Giesta is, George Soros and Son. So these are big names in funding. They fund tides. They fund all sorts of things like that. So they're disruptive through dark operations. They're disruptive through NGOs that they fund. They're not directly disruptive. They just fund disruptive things. And they'll say, well, we're not in control of that. They are through their funding. Cody continues, a quick skim through the rest of the board of trustees should give you a pretty good idea of their agenda. Most are ex-politicians with ties to the United Nations, the World Bank, Harvard, WW media outlets, worldwide media outlets, and various other NGOs and charities. ICG has Global Affairs Canada listed as a government donor, and according to a report released by GAC in 2017-18, Canada invested $5.37 billion in ODA. How much of those funds were sent specifically to ICG? Follow the wives, so he's got it highlighted here. I don't know which wife this is, but he's got screenshots backing up what he's saying here. And Christia Freeland interviewed George Soros and did an unauthorized or an authorized biography. I can't remember which one. And Cody finishes with psychological operations or operations to convey selected information and indicators to audiences to influence their emotions, motives, and objective reasoning, and ultimately the behavior of governments, organizations, groups, and individuals. So I think I don't know that this proves necessarily that these people are not who on first blush we were told and led to believe that they were and are. There's more to this than meets the eye, and it's quite interesting. It's very, very interesting. And I don't know what the more to this is. I'm just saying we're just scratching the surface on what we know about the 2 Michaels. And this whole dog and pony show, like this whole thing, is just insane. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Does it play well to an asleep public? Maybe, I guess, but everybody's going to have questions about who are the 2 Asian ladies. Does anybody have a name for either of them? Like, this is their wives, girlfriends, friends from childhood. I went to school with her and wherever they grew up. You know, like, it's, who are they? And it's has more questions than answers. It seems, I think the purpose of propaganda generally is to demoralize the population. It's not to inform you, it's to demoralize you. And stuff like that feels like the government teabagging you. Like, oh, you thought that there was Chinese interference? Here's the two Michaels and their Chinese handlers. There is Chinese interference, right? Here's physical proof. Aaron is responding to this. Stephen Tyler says, call me skeptical, but not about Canadian intelligence. So the Toronto Star is running this article by Chantal Hebert, and Chantal Hebert is a Trudeau Foundation alum, okay? And the article's title is Think Intelligent Agencies Always Get It Right? Here's Why You Should Be Skeptical. So they're using Trudeau Foundation assets to write mainstream media articles about how CSIS is wrong about the Chinese interference. This is trying to memory hold this. This is trying to move on without actually dealing with the Chinese interference. I think if we get a public inquiry and Jagmeet Singh is like, I think the Chinese interference is just fine, they're going to try and do exactly the same thing that they did with the Rouleau report. Nothing to see here. Everything's fine. Oh, there was no interference. Nothing. One of the things they all say, even the Pierre Poilievre says, the Conservatives agree that the outcome wasn't changed. How can you know that? How can, in this point, you have nothing but questions? How are you already saying, we've conceded the game. We've conceded that it didn't change the election outcome. You're the prime minister, undisputedly, undoubtedly. Yes, we've conceded that. But we just want to know, we've got questions about, the details. How could you know that it didn't change the outcome? How could you possibly know? And it just seems, especially in a minority situation, it seems ridiculous. It seems ridiculous. Ridiculous is not the right word, but it seems like the leader of the opposition, Jagmeet Singh, the people who are saying this, we know that it didn't change the outcome, are not being honest. They're not telling us everything. If you know that, prove it. Prove it. And not with math. Like, sometimes people are putting up the math of the last 2021 election, I think. And they say that if the PPC had voted CPC, then the CPC would have won all these seats and we wouldn't be in this mess in the first place. But it mistakes a lot. It makes a lot of assumptions that are wrong. Like, if the PPC didn't exist, let's just say, then that 5% maybe aren't voting. They're not automatically voting for the CPC, right? And there's flaws in the arguments that are made. And then those flaws are repeated or caught onto as fact, and it's just propagated and ignored, right? Like, you move forward as if those flaws don't exist, and you just have to accept the nonsense. Like, the Liberals will cite, oh, this Chantal Hebert penned piece, CSIS gets it wrong, right? And so, ergo, CSIS got it wrong. Next question, right? Like, that's been debunked. Okay. Pierre Poilievre is talking about Iran and the Iranian Revolutionary Guard coming to Canada, and he gets this crowd cheering and chanting, kick them out, kick them out, kick them out. And I think that it's interesting because if it was a different group of people, that would be, horrifically racist or something to that effect. I think it's really interesting how Canadian politicians would be able to solve this problem through deportation. But there are other problems that we have with illegal people who are here illegally that we don't solve with deportation. Why can we solve this problem with deportation and we can't solve other problems with deportation? How would we, if we find out that there's Chinese triads working in Canada, and then we start arresting Chinese people and finding that they're working with triads, do you deport those people, or do we have a legal system that could do that? I don't think we have a legal system that could do that. So this shows me, or tells me, that it's purely playing politics. Kick them out, kick them out. But there are other people who are doing far more violent things, much worse to the economy, much worse to, like, the fentanyl trade, much worse to all that stuff. And we don't do a damn thing. We don't do anything about it. And so it's just strange to me. And because our laws don't have enough teeth, and the politics, there's no political will to do anything about it. So it's strange. Anyway, here's Pierre Poilievre. He's got a crowd chanting about kick them out in Canada. So, right? Weird. And I don't disagree. I just don't think that he would be able to do it politically. I don't think he'd be able to do it.
it is legal for the IRGC to operate, raise funds, organize logistics, and stage its activities right here on Canadian soil. Members of the regime are seen enjoying themselves, consuming the plunder they stole from the Iranian people while living in peace and comfort here in our country. A former police chief from Tehran was seen in a gym, exercising and frolicking about, enjoying the freedom of our land, even after years of robbing others of their freedom. This must never be a safe haven for tyrants or their enablers.
So it seems like he'll co-opt that until somebody says, do you think we should kick the Iranians out? Well, hold on a second. I meant what I meant by that is Dan McTeague is talking about this. This is a distraction from the Chinese stuff. The other thing, he's talking about how the Iranians are working out in gyms. They're working out in gyms and enjoying the freedoms from the theft of the Iranian people, or from the Iranian people. And the Chinese are in our government, orchestrating weaponized mass immigration, orchestrating the destruction of our Canadian culture, orchestrating Roxham Road. We'll talk about that in a minute. So what's the priority here? Kick them out, kick them out. Let's get control of our government, please, because it seems like it's in control of China at this point in time. Just to me, who am I, right? Michael Barrett, this is a distraction. I think this is a distraction from the massive China stuff. This is not a regular day in Canadian politics. Yesterday had the Joe Biden visit gave a day break from the China stuff. But I have the feeling the leaker will make a new explosion happen. But there are more questions than answers, and this China story is not going away. But they're trying to, they're trying to turn the page on this. It seems like a distraction. Michael Barrett says it was Justin Trudeau. Justin said it was a national secret who stayed in the $6,000 a night luxury suite and stuck taxpayers with the bill. But it was a committee set to investigate, this $30,000 boondoggle and a court case coming, he caved. Now he needs to pay it back. So I think I agree with that. Like, he could pay it back. He's a rich guy, $6,000 a night, and we don't need to pay that. Taxpayer doesn't need to pay that. So he could have stayed. There are places that he could have stayed for free. Dan McTeague said, and he was a former Liberal MP, he said, it was common knowledge amongst our caucus from 2008 to 2011 that Trudeau would only accept the finer things in life, including insisting that bed sheets had to be 600 thread point Egyptian cotton sheets. Should we be surprised by a $6,000 a night hotel stay? And no, obviously not. He's been groomed that way, right? That's just who he is. Hello, everyone. Thanks for watching. You can check out full episodes of Canada Poly every day at CanadaPoly.com. You can also go to CanadaPoly.com and pick up a ticket for a live event. The live event is taking place in Streetsville, and the location will be provided to ticket holders. But you can check out a live event. Dr. Patrick Phillips, Sarah C., and Scarlett Martin. I'm sorry, Sarah. I don't know I can't say your last name, and I'm terrible at saying last names. We'll be joining Greg Wycliffe and myself for an uncensored round table. It would be lovely if you could join us. Tickets at CanadaPoly.com. And if you live in Toronto, Mississauga, Milton, GTA, Hamilton, Guelph, Kitchener, Cambridge, it's probably well worth the drive to Streetsville. Thanks for watching, everybody, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.